So today my thinking is on Social Security and how Social Security can potentially be an unfair system to women and to spouses. And as a disclaimer, this can work both ways. This is mainly kind of takes a look at a higher earning spouse and then a lower earning spouse. So in most cases, that's probably the male is the one earning the higher salary and the female the lower salary. That can be reversed, but that's kind of probably typical in the industry. So Social Security is based upon your highest 35 earning years of labor out there, and then they have formulas for how each dollar that you earn calculates into your net benefit over time. So I was thinking about part of this system recently. I realized that the government really wants both spouses working in the system. And 50 years ago, you'd have typically the male working to provide for the family, the female staying home, taking care and watching over the family. And personally, I think that's a really good structure if you can afford it. And life has become less affordable now. And we had a big push kind of in the late 60s and 70s where the women entered the workforce. And it's kind of interesting to look at what that has done to the tax rates of America, in particular Social Security. And so in my family, I'm the higher earner. I'm an engineer and have a decent salary, and my wife has been able to stay home mainly through her career. She worked a little bit before we had our first child, and she's done a few service-based things recently because she likes to serve in the community. And so if you didn't know, you can find out what your Social Security payment is going to be. There's a government website, Social Security something or other, and you can load up your earnings over the years and see what your payment's going to be. And so it looked like, seems like I'm going to get a payment somewhere between $30,000 to $35,000 a year when I retire. And what an interesting thing is that my wife will also get half of my Social Security, which is like $15,000 or something like that. So together, our planned Social Security payment is something in the $60,000 range after we reach full retirement age at age 67. And so in thinking about it, she has not had to work to gain half of my Social Security payment. And the thing that I think is unfair with the Social Security is that she would already be able to claim half of my Social Security, but any of the jobs that she does now won't make a difference in her Social Security because she's not going to be able to earn half of what I have earned. So that extra tax payment that she is paying from her labor is just getting basically stolen by the government. I would think fair would be to start at half of mine, and then whatever she does for work just adds onto mine. But that's really why the government wants both spouses working, because it really changes the Social Security payment. And I know there's both Social Security and Medicaid. You pay about 7.2%. Your employer also pays about 7.2%. Overall, I think it's like 15 or 14.5% that could be part of your wages if the government didn't take this in Social Security. So for everything, all the labor that my wife might do in a job, she's probably never going to earn half of my income. And thus her Social Security benefit will never be bigger than half of mine. And so the government basically just takes all of that 14% and spends it. So I think that's kind of a way to think about that as being an unfair system, is that for the Social Security, when you have a working couple, it's really hard to gain the value of that extra tax that's taken. And you might say, well, what if both couples worked all their life? Her Social Security could be higher, and that's true. You have the ability to either choose your own Social Security or your spouse's Social Security, but it's not the same even amount. So so let's say she earned the same salary as I did over the past years. We'd both get the same benefit at about $30,000 a year, but then that half of my Social Security payment just disappears. The government would have paid it out, but they're not anymore. So yes, she would get the value of all of her Social Security earnings, but that half just disappears. So it as I kind of think about it, the most efficient thing to do is to have a single wage earner in the family that earns the Social Security funds, and then the spouse has the most tax advantaged method of staying home and taking care of the family, or doing other investment activities that aren't considered a normal wage. That's really the most efficient way to use our Social Security system, is to have one wage earner, the spouse, then gets half of the Social Security, and the high wage earner could be both either male or female, and the non-working spouse either male or female. But again, that would be the most tax efficient method, is one person works in the industry, gets a W-2 job, pays into the Social Security system, and the other spouse gets half of that. So that's something to consider. Also, I'm really interested in getting my investment income up, because when you make income off of investments, you do not pay Social Security. So, the quicker a couple can change their W-2 earnings into investments, the less they will end up paying into the Social Security system with that 14% tax on wages. So that's kind of one way that Warren Buffett has a lower tax rate than the average person, is when you earn all your funds off of stock investments, you're not paying FICA tax, which is Social Security. So that's something kind of interesting. The more you can do to quickly get yourself off of this W-2 income, the less Social Security you'll end up paying into. And if you have just a single earner, Social Security is actually much more efficient for you. And that's part of the reason why governments want both spouses working, is because in a sense they can steal at least a portion of one of the working spouse's Social Security and then just spend it. So something interesting to consider. Nothing in this conversation is going to change the industry at all, but it's just kind of interesting to ponder on how the tax systems function and how some of them are stacked against us. So hopefully I found this pondering interesting, and we'll see you. Bye.